Started?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Hey, well, welcome, PDH pals. We're gonna start something new here. We're gonna go over some deck techs. All right, and it's Archonmage here. Gonna break down the first one. This is probably one of the more fun ones I put together, especially more recently. So it'll be a better display of what the process I go through to make decks, and then kind of what the deck looks like. So we'll jump right into it here with Tiana ship Caretaker. Alright, 5 mana in the red and white colors. Okay, that's Boros, as I'm slowly learning. It's a 5 mana 3/3, flying first strike, but what really makes it good is whenever an aura equipment you control is put into the graveyard, you may return that card to the owner's hand at the end of the next end step. So, a lot of auras, a lot of equipments, we'll go over those now, right, as they are the bulk of the deck. As you can see, got a whole bunch right here. That's a lot of cards. In a 100 card deck, not bad. But first things first, we got a protector now. Alright, protection spells. Got 5 of them. Alright, first one, equipment, Whisper Silk Cloak. That's a PDH staple right there. 3 mana to play, 2 mana to equip. It becomes unblockable. And Shroud. I mean, can't be targeted spells or abilities. It's pretty good. Then we got just more standard protection. Alright, Pentarch Ward. Costs a little extra mana than the other ones, but it draws you a card, any color. You can say white with Pentarch Ward, because, you know, if you get some protection from white, it's technically white, but Pentarch Ward doesn't allow that to happen. I guess before we get to that one, we'll go to Floating Shield next. It does the same thing, except it doesn't draw me a card, but it has another thing to where I can sack it and have target creature gain protection from the choosing color until end of turn. So I got it on Tiana, but, you know, I make it blue, but then my buddy Sniffhowl over there has something being targeted by a blue card. I can sack this, give his creature protection from whatever counter spell, removal spell Drix's has got going, and then this it goes to my graveyard, and then I can just get it right back. You know, next turn no problem. Then my next turn comes around, plop it right back on it. Alright, and then, you know, the gotcha cards. Alright, both 2 white mana. So anytime Tiana's got 2 white mana open, gotta be careful. Who knows what's gonna happen. Alright, Words of Light, Channel Mano's Blessing. Both can be played at instant speed. You choose a color, that creature gains protection from the end of the turn. Channel Mano's is a little better, normally, but Words of Light here says if you were to play this as an instant, if you do, you bury it at the end of turn. Now it says end of turn, that actually happens in your cleanup step, which is after the end of turn, so it does kind of miss the first Tiana trigger here. But this trigger will still go off the next time an end step happens. So, you know, I'm sitting on the right side of the table over here, and then, you know, Drix's is to my left. So at the end of his turn, if this is still in my graveyard, I get this back. And I believe that happens even if Tiana leaves. You know, rulings and stuff kind of go with the flow sometimes. But yeah, 5 cards out of 100. I mean, I think that's a pretty significant portion. So now we'll move into kind of enchantments, and yeah, I guess these are all enchantments that all basically go on other creatures for the most part, except these first couple right here. Yeah. So Bloodfire Infusion, that's a good card. All right, I enchant one of my creatures, and then for 1 red mana, I sack that creature, and it deals damage to the power of that creature to all other creatures. So I got some big fatty on the board or whatnot. You know, Plains Chase gives me some big fatty out of nowhere. I'll put Bloodfire Infusion and I can wipe the board. It's pretty good. Especially if I can recur it and keep getting it back. Good stuff. Lunarch Mantle is a sack outlet. 2 mana +2/+2, and on enchantment it's already pretty decent. And then for 1 mana I can sack a permanent, and this the creature will gain flying. Doesn't have too many applications. I mean, giving flying is still just good. Being able to get in there and attack over a bunch of groundies, or protection from Warmonger, you know, could be relevant. Choking Restraints is basically a 3 mana pacifism, 1 extra mana, whatever. But for 5 mana, I can sack the Restraints and exile the creature. So it's an 8 mana scour, basically, but it's recurable. So I can keep doing it, 1 extra mana, no problem. Or it can sit there for a turn, can't attack or block, you know, pacified, and then later spend the mana. These are the the good stuff. Alright, Faith Fetters, enchant a permanent, gain 4 life, you can't attack, block, or activate its abilities. You know, great Auriok Salvager target right here. Just plop it down, can't do anything anymore. Suppression Bond does the same thing, except it is gaining life, but both potentially recurable in this format. It's pretty good. And then Temporal Isolations is another one of those gotcha cards. Again, Tiana's got 2 mana open, and at least one of them's white. Could be Channel Manos, could be Wards of Light, or Temporal. Alright, you flash this in, that gives them Shadow, so it can't be attacked or blocked. But more importantly, prevents all damage would be dealt by enchanted creatures. So, Halar, be on the lookout. Alright, so that's there, and now we'll kind of get into some of the combat heavy stuff. To me, I think one of the most important things in this deck is Vigilance. Especially in a multiplayer format, being able to attack and still be defensive, I think, is crucial. So we'll go over these first couple equipments right here, in True Faith Sensor and Bladed Bracers. They're basically the same thing. Bladed Bracers does cost 1 less, but they both give +1/+1, and then True Faith just gives it Vigilance no matter what. Bladed Bracers requires the creature to be a human or an angel. Luckily for us, Tiana's an angel, like the beloved angel she is, and it gives them Vigilance. If you put True Faith on a human, it'll give it +1/+0. There's a couple humans in the deck that could be viable, but generally these will stick to Tiana and just kind of give her Vigilance. You know, 4/4 with First Strike, Flying, and Vigilance, like, that's so good. You're guaranteed almost to get that 4 damage in. It's commander damage as well. And then I got her on the block. Like, you got to hit me with something with more than, what, 4 or 5 butt to not just die. And, you know, it's pretty good. Now we'll get into the 2 big beefy ones. Nightly Valor, Mammoth, Umbra, both cost 5. Nightly Valor gives +2/+2 in Vigilance, and also gives you gives you a 2/2 Knight. This is a pretty good card, as it basically serves as a creature and a buff spell at the same time. Having extra creatures is good. This deck is kind of light on creatures compared to some of my other decks, so it's nice to get that extra 2/2 body. And then buffing her up to 5 damage is pretty good. Mammoth Umbra gives +3/+3 in Vigilance, so it's slightly better, and Totem Armor. So I think, you know, if it were to come to, if I ever had to cut one of these, I'd probably cut Nightly Valor first. Granted, I'd hopefully put in a bigger creature over it, but Mammoth Umbra being downshifted in Ultimate Masters was pretty nice. And now, again, 2 mana, 1 white, Tiana, open, big deal. Alright, Triclopean Sight. Flash, enchant creature, the creature becomes untapped and then gets +1/+1 in Vigilance. Like, this doesn't just have to be on my creature. Say I attack turn 5, or whatever, turn 6. I got extra mana open, play some of the rock, do something else, but then I still got the 2 mana open. That could be protection, that could be stopping your guy with Temporal, or, oh, you think you're clear to attack me? Nope, gotcha. Right here, untap it, +1/+1 Vigilance, and that's 4 First Strike damage. Like, what are you going to do? So, Vigilance, very key, very important for this deck. Now there's a couple extra cool effects that you keep going with. Just got 2 Lifelinkers right here. Scourge is pretty ridiculous. It's kind of the win con of the deck. If it's red or white, they both get +1/+1, so it's 3 mana for +2/+2. But then it gives any of my colored mana, which will only be red and white in this deck for the most part, Fire Breathing, and then Lifelink. So it's not only is it just like, it's a great card. And then Squire Devotion, again, it's kind of like one of those creatures, but not a creature at the same time. It gives it Lifelink. If I ever find myself kind of being targeted, which hopefully doesn't happen, but I can then get a 1/1 another Lifelinker and this Lifelinker just to potentially stabilize. Incremental life gain goes a long way in this format. So just a couple in there. See what we can do. Then a couple more haste effects. Gotta go fast. Strider Harness is really stupid. For 3 mana, it's upfront cost 3 mana. But you can basically make everything you cost 1 more and give it haste. I mean, I don't know what else to say. That's just nuts. Goblin Warpaint, +2/+2 for 2 mana is pretty good in haste. Fantastic. And then Fleet Fetter Sandals, again, flying haste. You know, getting in there, doing some work. This one generally will go on other creatures, but if I need to, you know, 2 mana, Tiana, haste, gotta do what you gotta do. Then there's a couple other miscellaneous ones over here. We'll start out with this Capuchin Standard. It's basically a 3-mana draw card every turn. If I can leave the mana open, not only does it for 1 mana give +1/+1, but I can put this on like other creatures too. Like even if Tiana's not on the board yet, if I really desperately need to draw a card, like maybe I kept a 2-lander like an idiot, but I kept this, so then I'll draw an extra card, maybe hit a land drop. Bestial Fury is also a draw card, next upkeep. But it also says if the enchanted creature is attacked or blocked, you can trample and +4/+0. This basically says unblockable, because what are you doing? Lightning Reflexes is a nice little political card here. I can flash this in if I need to. Give a creature +1/+0 and first strike. Inhale, kill, exhale, no problem. Not really good on Tiana. I could put it on my other creatures if I need to, but it's really just kind of, if I got 2 mana open, one of them happens to be red this time, something might be fishy. But flash this in, give it first strike. Just kind of pseudo removal for this deck. But this card right here, Explorer Scope, good stuff. Guaranteed to be in your opening hand every time, no problem. And on top of it, every time you attack with a creature, you look at the top of your library. It's going to be guaranteed to be a land, and you're just going to put it in the play tapped. This is, I don't know, this is just a good card. Especially in red-white, you don't really have much ramp options, so this helps kind of, one, either see what your next draw is, so you can kind of see, maybe I desperately need to draw that card, and something good, or just kind of plan for the future. Best case scenario, you get that land. You get that tap land in tapped already. So that's the artifacts, equipments. That's a pretty big chunk of the deck right here. I mean, that's probably over 1/4 of the deck, which, I mean, that's what you're doing with Tiana. So now we'll jump into the creatures. I guess we'll start with the red ones here, move over to the white ones. But these are kind of the bigger creatures, the good stuff. We'll start right down here, 4-mana creatures. Both of them kind of, Metalcraft, need 3 artifacts. Mongrel, need an artifact, just kind of decent value. If he comes out, he becomes a 6/6 for the turn, and haste. So for 4 mana, 6/6, that's pretty nice. Maybe you got a way to give it Vigilance over there, no problem, or Lifelink, good stuff. Trample's pretty good, getting through small butts, basically unblockable. Then we got Crowd Hunter Hireling. This card is a 5-mana 4/4 that says draw a card at the end step. Monarch's good. Get in the game. Start making political moves. You do what you gotta do. Towering Thunderfist. Again, 5-mana 4/4, not bad. And then I can spend extra mana. Sometimes you just got 1 or 2 extra mana that you're not gonna do anything with. Boom, attack, Vigilance, no problem. Coalhauler Swine. Just kind of there. I don't know. 6-mana 4/4. It's just kind of one of those cards. If it's dealt damage, it deals that much to everyone. It's got potential combos. If you put this out, people aren't really going to want a Swirling Sandstorm because they're going to take 5 or Pestilence boards, no problem. And then Magma Hellion. 7-mana 5/4, but it has this cool little Battle Bond effect, assist. I can have someone else pay 6 mana, so it could be a 1-mana 5/4. Then it has Trample and Haste. Like, get out of here. This is how you make allies and enemies quick. But, you gotta do what you gotta do to win multiplayer PDH games. So those are the red creatures. We'll just plot those right there for now. The white creatures are a little more effect-based. Got a couple more of them, but we'll start out with the low and work our way up. Oromancer, search your deck. These are the graveyard ones. Not bad. Getting ahead of myself. Yep, there you go. So both of these, this returns an enchantment. This returns an aura or equipment. All my enchantments are auras. I try to make it a point to do that because there are some good enchantments that aren't auras, but you want it to be recurable. You want it to be on theme. So both of these pretty good. This Helios Pilgrimage and Totem Guide Heart Beast right here. Both of these allow you to search your library for an aura card. Library for an aura card. Go get your tool. Alright, you got a whole bunch of tools right here. Go what you need in the moment. If you need temporal isolation for that Halar, go get it. If you need that Scourge of Nobilis to get yourself back in the game because you're being targeted, by all means go do it. It looks like I forgot one. This one's kind of new. Another Downshift, phenomenal card. It's 1 extra mana than these, but prowess. So whenever you attach a cast non-creature spell, so auras, equipments, and stuff, it'll get +1/+1, and then it returns the enchantment from the graveyard to hand. So you got 3 of these. So I normally only had 2, or I might have swapped a weaker one out, but this one's pretty good. So then this is recursion in case Tiana dies. These are searching your library, and then this is more draw. You can never really have too much draw in a 99 card deck, so getting Monarch in play is pretty good. 2/4, 4 but basically unkillable in the format. So good aura enchantment equipper in the first place. This card is, I don't know, just kind of trying to fill it with stuff that's got things. I really like cycling in the format in general. So worst case scenario, I open this and I just cycle it for 1 to just kind of go through my deck. Best case scenario, 6 mana, flying, vigilance. Vigilance is a good effect here. Flying, attack over people, just kind of chip in there. With those 2 effects, really good at holding, Goblin Warpaint, 5/5, give it haste, no problem. And then Core Sanctifiers is artifact and enchantment removal. If you ever watch yourself a game of PDH Pals, which I definitely recommend if you're watching this video, there's some gnarly artifacts and enchantments out there. Right? Kill that Rhystic Study, kill that Pestilence, just hit stuff. Or if you really want to get fancy, you can play it on like the Temporal Isolation over on Sniff House deck. Get it back to then control Drix's board. You never know what you got to do, but just kind of there. So that's 8 creatures. I had 6 here. That's 7, 6. That's a relatively light creature number, but that's, at the moment I think that's kind of one of the weaknesses of the deck. But try and perfect it as we go and whatnot. So there's the creatures. What are we gonna go to next? Okay, so every deck outside its mana base needs a way to make sure it has some mana. So right now I currently have 8 mana rocks in there. All these cost a decent amount of mana. And then, yeah, how do I want to do it? There we go. Professional. Alright, so just 8. I'd ideally like the number to be 10. Probably need a little more than I currently do to make sure I always have enough mana to cast my spells. Especially if I'm recurring enchantments a lot. I'll need stuff. So right off the bat, Thought Vessel, no maximum hand size, gives you an extra mana. That could come in a crucial situation. Plane Chase says draw 4 cards, or just something silly. Vanguard might be a pretty good Vanguard, but those can fuck your hand size sometimes. And then Mind Stone, just a really good card in general at 2 mana rock, probably the best mana rock out there, besides maybe Commander Sphere. But late game, you can sack it, draw a card, and just kind of cycle through. And then your 4 mana one Sisei's Ring, it adds 2 colors of mana. So, they printed Soul Ring at 1 mana to do this effect. And then they realized that was a mistake. Let's make it 4. And in this format, it's phenomenal. Other formats, yeah, what are you going to do? But just play Soul Ring. But good stuff. There is another one, Urgolm's Eye. Not sure why I'm not running it. Probably need to go back and look at that. But
probably didn't have any at the time.
Yeah, probably just didn't have any and got to make an order soon. So made sure when I placed an order for Sludge Strider, I ordered 20 of these, so it's enough. But then we'll go to these. The Boros ones in particular. We'll start with Cluestone and Locket. These Lockets in Ravnica are pretty nice because for a while Cluestones I was kind of iffy on because 2 mana to draw a card is not 1 mana to draw a card. But then 4 mana to draw 2 is just, they work so well in the format. You play these early, you ramp yourself up. In the late game, when you got 15, 16 mana and you're running low of cards, sack your rocks. You don't need all that mana. You need cards in your hand to draw stuff. So, good stuff here. Pristine Talisman, nothing else needs to be said there. Commander Sphere, probably be run in every deck. Sack it, at any point draw a card. Just good stuff here. Like that's kind of, like this just kind of overshadowed the Cluestones, but, and then Araska Relic also coming out. Incremental life gain, drawing a card. You do need to have the City's Blessing, so if it does get blown up early, you could kind of get screwed, but I don't know. If someone's wasting an artifact and enchantment removal spell on Zaka Relic, you're probably in a good spot. So there's the mana base, or rock base. Again, I probably need 2 more. One right off the bat, Urgolm's Eye, and then, there's a plethora of others to choose from. Probably should go back and look at those, but I kind of like 10 just for a consistency standpoint. You know, 1/10 of your deck, I mean 1/3 of your deck is already lands, and then 1/10 of it can be rocks, just to make sure you get mana. Never want to get mana screwed. Oh, and I guess while I got the artifacts out here, I got 2 extra ones that I run. These are pretty standard staples. Relic of Progenitus is just a good card. Early in the game, excuse me, you get this down, and you can just prevent people from putting stuff in graves. Or, again, 1 mana, exile all cards, draw a card, and then Solvent is pretty good. I mean, 8 mana, destroy target permanent. But so this is a staple in most decks. But in Tiana, we have, where's it go? Choking Restraints. Okay, both of these 8 mana, except this one only hits creatures, it exiles, and it's recurable. So that kind of showcases the power of this a little bit. Just how much I think this is better than this. Granted, this can hit, you know, Pestilence or anything that's in the way, but from a creature removal standpoint, Choking Restraints is phenomenal. Okay, so that's the artifacts, mana base. So we'll get into the sorceries real quick. Not a lot here. You've got 2 draw cards. Just again, more draw. I don't remember the exact number, but I kind of like 10 in the draw standpoint too. So like even the rocks, like that's 1 draw, 2 draw, 3 draw, 4 draw, 5. Just like a lot of draw, 6 draw. Just a lot of draw cards, and these are good. Faithless Looting is a good card. If you keep an opening hand of 6 lands in Faithless Looting, good stuff. Good off the top too sometimes, maybe not, but just having it in your grave, kind of late in the game, flash it back, 3 mana, no problem. Survival Cache, incremental life gain is always good, and then it draws you a card if you have more life. Well, you just gain 2, probably getting you there. And it's a multiplayer format, so even if like you're kind of low, if someone else is kind of low, it still draws you a card, and then it rebounds, so you cast it again. Angelic Purge, phenomenal card. Sack a permanent, sack one of my enchantments, and get it back, no problem. Exile artifact, creature, enchantment. It exiles it, so they can't get it back. And then I put 2 hijack spells, Potent Betrayal. Both of them take other creatures, they gain haste. This one's 1 extra mana and scries, just kind of those types of effects. I wanted these 2. This one's the cheapest, I believe, and then scrying's always good. Oh, hijack also does get artifacts, so that's pretty good. But these can combo pretty well with where'd it go? Good old Bloodfire Infusion. It's probably right here. Just stupid stuff. Someone plays a Devastator on the board, whatever. Any of the big Eldrazi cards, they come out. Well, I'll take that. I'll hit you with it, and then I'll wipe everyone else's board. Just good stuff. Or these could potentially get stuff out of your way, trying to close the game out. And then Swirling Sandstorm, again, kind of like Bloodfire Infusion, deals 5 damage to each creature without flying. So, that also makes, where'd it go? It's probably back here. Lunarch Mantle, pretty good. Give a creature flying, protect it from Swirling Sandstorm, just kind of inner workings, inner synergies, just kind of making the deck come together. So, Swirling Sandstorm is really good. You always need a couple board wipes in the format. There's some decks out there like Soldiers or other Go White decks that just kind of get out of control. Rats. Try and kill pack rats before they get to 5. Just got to do what you got to do. But it's kind of light on these sorceries. It's not really much of a blue or green deck, so these are kind of light, just kind of filling in the gaps. We still got instants right here. But I just put that on. Okay. They're all white. Yep. Red instants, whatever. Not that great. Dawn Charm, phenomenal card. Prevent combat damage, regenerate creature, counter target spell that targets you. These fuck over fireballs, board wipes. Dawn Charm is nuts. Forsaken the Worldly is my, by far, favorite artifact enchantment removal. Not only does it exile it, if it's a game where there aren't many, you cycle it. It's just phenomenal card. Almost every white deck should run this card. Because worst case scenario, it's a 2 mana draw card. If you're not in blue, Lapse of Certainty is pretty good. 3 mana counter target spell. Just any spell. It goes back on top of their library, makes someone else deal with it. But just, help yourself out. Now, the white bread and butter. These 3 fucking cards right here. Holy shit. Riot Control, War Report, Congregate. All huge life gain cards. If you're on the brink of death, these are one way to bring you back, or push you so far ahead that you know, you get targeted out of Oblivion, so you got to be careful with these. Riot Control also prevents all damage, not combat damage, all damage that would be dealt to you this turn. Just nuts. And then you gain 1 life for each of their creatures. That's kind of the side effect of this one. War Report helps with artifacts and creatures, including yours. And then Congregate, you could help other people out. I have yet to see it. But you gain 2 life for each creature on the battlefield. It's just kind of nuts. And then, you know, good old Scour, exile permanent. Again, just kind of one of those staple cards. If you any PDH pal out there has got recommendations on red instants or sorceries for this deck, please let me know. And then we'll just kind of go over a quick overview of the lands. I'll make a more in-depth video of what I like in lands, but right here we got white kind of effect lands, or effect, they do stuff. I got 2 cycle lands. There's 3 to choose from. These are the 2 I have at the moment. This should be something else, but whatever. This gains you 2 life. Again, incremental life gain good. This is another Vigilance effect. You know, I honestly don't think you can have too many of those in the deck. Target when this enters the battlefield, +1/+1 Vigilance, pretty good. And then this card, holy moly, this is a protection spell on a land. Like your mana base, protection. You saw how many of these effects I was already running in permanents, and then you just add it into your mana base, no problem. So good. And then I got red effect lands. Not as many of these. +1/+1 at first strike could be pretty good, and then the cycle lands. Again, the worst thing you want to do is late in the game, you're out of cards, draw land. So we'll put these in there, put the 2 cycle lands in there, hedge our bets a little bit. If we draw these off the top, no problem. You just cycle them, and then if we open them, they're just standard tap lands, you know, whatever. A couple extra lands over here. These are, I guess, cooler lands. You know, incremental life gain, good. Forge of Soul, incremental life gain, good. And then, you know, this is an untapped land for any color of my commander, so it's just mana fixing, pretty decent. But then these 2 right here, this I can put on any commander, but if a commander enters the battlefield, it gets +1/+1, which is pretty nice. So make Tiana 5 mana, or I guess technically 6 mana. So I get to tap this 4/4, still better because it's permanent +1/+1. And then Opal Palace, every time it comes into play, it keeps dying coming back, keeps dying coming back. I can spend that mana on my commander, and it gets +1/+1 for each time it comes back from the commander zone. Phenomenal land. Then we just got standard tap lands. You have, yeah, each color, double color, has just like a gate, a random one, and then one that gains you life. You know, sometimes if you're on a 3-color deck, like some of my other decks, you don't run these, you just kind of run this one. But in this, just mana fixing, and then Boros Garrison, taps for 2. This can be pretty good, just, you know, one helps you if you got 2 lands, you can bounce them and stuff and have 3 mana and not miss land drops, blah, blah, blah. But it can be pretty good if you're playing some sort of weird format like Vanguard or Plains Chase or the Island or something that untaps it. You untap this, 2 mana. And then, you know, just a bunch of basics. As I was going through it, though, I did notice I only have 5 mountains and a whole bunch of plains. You know, that's probably an oversight, just trying to put the deck together real fast. You kind of want to have a more healthy balance. I will say, though, if you ever make a black deck, you probably want more black mana, because a lot of those cards, like Pestilence, say 1 black mana, or Consume Spirit or something, or whatever, just all want black sources. But it shouldn't be this bad, but I'll definitely need to look into that. But, you know, I run, I think, 36 lands in this deck. 35, I think, is absolute bare minimum, but it is a multiplayer format, so you do kind of get a free mulligan, but you definitely always want to make sure you have enough lands. Yeah, and I think that will just go ahead and wrap it up for this deck tech here. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll see you next time.